Hey guys, welcome to another week of Kids Church at Home. This is kind of a special Sunday. This is our first Sunday to have Kids Church at church. And so we're also doing Kids Church at Home for a little bit. I don't know how long we're going to continue to do both, but at least for today, we're here. So if you're not able to make it to Kids Church at Home, we're glad, or Kids Church at Church, we're glad you're able to make it here at Kids Church at Home. If you are going to get to come to Kids Church here at church, we are so excited to see you and hope you have a wonderful time when you come. I just want to remind you of a couple of things. When you come, your parents can drop you off at the entrance to the garage, kind of right where the little check-in table is. And then we have benches for you to sit on, and you can sit either kind of on your own bench, or you can sit on a bench with your siblings. So if you've got a brother and sister that you want to sit with, you can sit with them. But other than that, we kind of have everything spread out nice and far so we can kind of distance ourselves and not have to smell each other, which I really appreciate. Also, we want you to make sure when you come that you wear a mask, just to make sure that we can kind of follow all the guidelines that we're trying to abide by and keep each other as safe as possible. And in fact, just to kind of give you a little update on how to wear a mask, how to use a mask, here's our friend Squeep to give you some very important information about masks.
And now a message about masks from Squeep. Take it away, Squeep.
All right, hopefully that covers everything. If you have any questions, feel free to email Squeep. It's squeep@squeep.squeep. I think so. That's what he said, and I couldn't understand him, so I assume it is. I've been sending him emails all the time. He never writes back, though. I assume it's because he doesn't have any fingers. Anyway, but we want to get on with it, and so here are the Kids Church rules. All right, well, we are about to begin a brand new segment here on Kids Church at Home, where we're, for the next month, kind of the month of August, we're going to be talking about kind of a little bit of a different idea. We're going through the life of Christ right now. Earlier in the month of June, we looked at Jesus performing miracles where he healed people. He healed Lazarus. He healed a woman who had a disease for many years, and a little girl who people thought had died. Last month, we looked at Jesus doing a lot of different teachings. And last week, one of the teachings we looked at was how Jesus taught that he was the good shepherd. This month, we're going to look at something else as well. This month, we're going to be looking at Jesus performing lots of different miracles. Now, we saw Jesus healing people, and those certainly were miracles, but we're going to see Jesus perform different kinds of miracles. And it kind of leads into what we call our big question. And so here's the big question for the month that we're going to ask. And the question is this: why did Jesus perform miracles? Now, this is a little embarrassing, but when I was in middle school, I was really big into magic. I didn't have a lot of friends, and so I would kind of stay up in my room and perform magic tricks. I had card tricks, and ones like I pulled little sponge balls out of nowhere, and it got to the point where I even had pet doves that would perform in my magic show. I had two birds. One was Houdini and one was Copperfield, named after some famous magicians. Probably would name them maybe Penn and Teller if I had them today. But they were my magician assistants who were really messy and made a lot of made a lot of mess in their cage. I did not love having them, but I would do magic tricks with them. I would make them come out of fire, and I had one trick where I would blow a balloon up and pop it, and the bird would come out of it. Which is a really cool trick. Hard to get the balloon in a deflated, the bird in a deflated balloon. Very tricky. But I would do all these tricks, and they were a lot of fun. Mainly because I like playing with fire. I thought that was kind of cool. And I just like doing things that look like magic. Obviously, none of it was magic. Some of you at Kingdom Kids asked me to do tricks. I'll pull my finger off. A little different than the trick where you pull your finger. I have performed some tricks here at Kids Church at home, but when I perform those tricks, my guess is that none of you actually come away with thinking, Jawu is magic. You might think, wow, Jawu knows some cool tricks, but even in the name, a magic trick, you know that what is happening, you're being tricked. Because guess what? When I blow up a balloon and I pop it and a bird comes out, I gotta be honest with you, that's not what's happening. You know why? It's a trick. Do you know what the trick is? Can't tell you. I did swear an oath. But all of these things that we see, that we perform magic tricks, they don't prove anything about me other than I spent a lot of time alone in a room with the dove trying to make it disappear and reappear, and it's not real magic. I can't do real magic. Can't actually remove my finger from my hand. If you do, you have to go get that put back on with a surgeon at the hospital. Not real. Now, Jesus did miracles that in a way maybe kind of look similar to tricks that people might perform. We're in a little bit later on in a few weeks, we'll see Jesus walking on water. I've seen other magicians do that. But one of the things that is really interesting is that what Jesus does when he performs these miracles is he's doing them for a certain reason. And the reason he's performing these miracles is to prove something. Not to prove that he worked hard on magic, not to prove that he was really cool and he had practiced. And just so you know, for some reason the power in my office is flickering. Magic trick? No, it's the power's flickering. Anyway, I don't know why it's doing that. But anyway, what we see when Jesus performs these miracles is that Jesus was doing these miracles for a certain reason. And so our question is that why? Why did he perform miracles? Well, today we're going to talk about the miracle where Jesus is on a boat with all of his disciples and he falls asleep. That's not the miracle. But Jesus is on the boat and he falls asleep and a storm comes. And it's a storm that is so bad that the men on the boat get scared. Now let's talk about who are on the boat. You've got some guys who are tax collectors that became followers of Jesus. You've got just lots of different guys, but a majority of the guys on the boat, they grew up on boats in the exact same waters that they are on now as fishermen. So these are men who know boats, who know the Sea of Galilee, and who know storms better than anyone else, because this is their job, this is their life. I cannot imagine how many nights they've spent out on the waters and how many storms that these men have weathered. But this storm was so bad, even these men were scared. Think about how bad of a storm that would be. A storm so bad it scares the fishermen. Not a little kid who's afraid of some thunder, but we're talking about grown men who are scared. And not only just grown men, fishermen. Men who know storms. Well, these guys are terrified. And so they run to Jesus. They wake him up because they are afraid that they are going to die in this storm. Well, let's see what happens in our story today.
Jesus spent all day teaching crowds of people near the Sea of Galilee. That evening, Jesus wanted to cross over to the other side of the sea. So Jesus and his disciples left the crowds. They got into a boat and began sailing. Some of the people from the crowds followed in their own boats. While Jesus and his disciples traveled, Jesus fell asleep on a cushion at the back of the boat. All of a sudden, a storm came. The wind was strong and the waves crashed into the boat. Water was coming into the boat and the disciples were afraid. Many of the disciples were fishermen. They had survived storms on the sea before, but this storm was different. It was so strong. If the water kept coming in the boat would sink. Surely they would all drown. The disciples looked to Jesus for help, but Jesus was still fast asleep at the back of the boat. He didn't seem to even notice the storm. Did Jesus care if they were about to sink into the sea? The disciples woke up Jesus. "Lord, save us," they said. "We are going to die." Jesus opened his eyes and saw that his friends were afraid. He got up and spoke to the wind. Then Jesus said to the sea, "Silence! Be still." At the sound of Jesus' voice, the wind stopped blowing and the waves stopped crashing. Everything was calm. The disciples were safe. Jesus looked at his disciples and asked, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Did the disciples not trust Jesus to take care of them? The disciples were amazed. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. "Even the wind and the waves obey him." Jesus' disciples knew Jesus was a good man and a good teacher. But when Jesus calmed the wind and the waves, he showed his disciples that he is also God. God rules the sea and stills its waves.
You know, the question that we're asking is, why did Jesus perform miracles? And we see now Jesus perform a miracle. And what is the miracle? Is it that it stopped raining? No, that's not the miracle. The miracle was that Jesus made it stop raining. Was the miracle that the wind stopped? No. The miracle was that the wind obeyed Jesus and it stopped. So, what does this miracle tell us? That Jesus can do cool things? It tells us something much greater than that. You know, there's been a lot of times I've wanted it to stop raining. You know, maybe I want to go outside and play, or, you know, I've been to amusement park waiting in line to go on a roller coaster and it started raining and they shut the ride down and I'm standing there in line wondering, waiting for the rain to stop, and it finally did. And you know why? Because we waited and the storm went past. But this is different. The storm didn't pass. The storm stopped. The storm, it ceased. It completely stopped because it was obedient to Jesus. That's what the disciples said. Who is this person that the wind and the waves, that they obey him? So when these men were marveling at the miracle of Jesus, what were they marveling at? They were marveling at the person who can command all of creation. Well, who can do that? Who can tell creation what to do? Can you stop the sun? I can't. Have you ever been to the beach and tried to stop a wave? It doesn't work. I have been at the mercy of a wave many times as I'm just being spun over and over and over again, caught up in a wave, and then spit back on to shore. And I get up and say, "Hey, cut that out." And I walk out and does it again, right? I can't make the waves obey. You know why? Because I didn't create the waves. I'm not in charge of the waves. But when the waves can obey someone, what does it say about that person? You see, one of the things that we're going to see about one of the reasons why Jesus did miracles, and there's a couple reasons, but one of the reasons that we see it in the story today is that Jesus proved who he was by the things that he did. Jesus proved that he was God, the creator of all, by commanding the creation. The creation is obedient and it sits under the authority of the Creator, the one who made it, the one who set it into motion. And so when we look at Jesus, he's not just a good man. He's not someone who's just a teacher. When we look at Jesus in the story, you know what we see? He is God. He is God. Well, let's move on to our questions from kids. We have a really interesting question that I think you're really going to enjoy. Check this out.
Hi there, I'm Pastor Brian, and it's time for Questions from Kids. Charlie from Albany, Georgia asks,
why do we have bad days?
Oh, Charlie, we all have bad days. That is the reality of life. This is a great question that I think is really going to be helpful for a lot of people. So the short answer is this: we have bad days because we live in a fallen world. God's design was for there to be no bad days. If you think back in creation, Genesis 1 and 2, there were no bad days that were orchestrated for Adam and Eve. If you think about what awaits us in eternity, Revelation 21 and 22, there are no bad days there either. It's all in between because of sin that we have bad days. And it's this way. So sometimes I have a bad day because I'm just not walking with Christ and I'm sinning. And that's gonna be a problem, right? And I'm gonna have a hard, difficult, bad day because of my own sin. There are other days that I might be having a bad day because of the sin of others. Maybe somebody's wronged me, and that's hard, hurt my heart. And so it's hard to have those kind of days. Other days, it's just the situation in life. I'm gonna be sitting in a lot of traffic. That's a bad day. It's not because of maybe sin directly, it's just the reality of life. And so all these things can happen and give us hard, difficult days. But here is what we have to remember, that these days are temporary. God has given us this great gift called sleep, hasn't he? Think about it. You have a really hard day, and then you're able to go to bed at night, and it may be hard to fall asleep because those things are still replaying, but eventually you drift off to sleep. And what happens? You wake up the next day, and it's a new day. It's a gift from God. It's a fresh start. You can put that bad day to end. You can put it to bed. You wake up then, and you have a brand new day and say, today's gonna be different. And God can bless you, and you can have the greatest day ever right after having that bad day. So we remember that it's temporary, but also remember that even if that bad day feels long, even if you wake up the next day and you have another bad day, here's the reality, here's the beautiful truth. God is with you. He's right there with you. You can turn to him, you can sigh to God and say, this is hard. And you know that God knows this because Jesus experienced bad days as well in his ministry on earth. So we have a God who loves us, we have a God who cares, a God who knows that we can go to for encouragement. We also have one another. When you're having a bad day, God has given us this gift in one another that you can go to parents or a friend or a teacher and just share and be encouraged by one another and be encouraged to hang in there, to get through it as God is with you. We have one another to love us through it as well. So here's a question for you. How can you encourage someone who is having a bad day?
You know, when we're having a bad day, it's encouraging to know that the God of the universe, the one who sits in control of all things, is also knows us and loves us. And if we're a Christian, is our Father and cares about us so deeply. Well, we're going to sing a little bit this morning. I hope you guys at home will sing with us. Here's some songs. You know, one of the things that's really neat about the songs that we sing at Kids Church is, in addition to kind of being really fun songs and kind of have really catchy tunes, is that all the words were not written by songwriters. They were straight from the Word of God. So as we're singing the songs, one thing we're doing is we're also memorizing Scripture. Isn't that cool? So we hope that you will sing these words with us. You'll sing the Scriptures along with us as we rejoice and praise our God. Sing with us.
Ephesians 2, 4, and 5.
Being rich in mercy because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, by grace you have been saved. We're alive. We're alive, we're alive, yes. We're alive. But God, being rich in mercy because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive, made us alive. Together with Christ, by grace you have been saved. By grace you have been saved. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. Oh yeah. We're alive. But God, being rich in mercy because
of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses.
Made us alive,
Made us alive,
alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved. By grace you have been saved. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. We are A-L-I-V-E. We're alive. Christ is in me. We are A-L-I-V-E. We're alive. Christ is in me. Yes.
Zephaniah 3:17.
The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, the Lord your God is with you, he will take great delight in you, he will quiet you with his love, he will rejoice over you with singing. Oh, the Lord your God is with you, he will take great delight in you, he will quiet you with his love, he will rejoice over you with singing. Oh, the Lord your God is with you. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, the Lord your God is with you, he will take great delight in you, he will quiet you with his love, he will rejoice over you with singing. Oh, the Lord your God is with you, he will take great delight in you, he will quiet you with his love, he will rejoice over you with singing. Oh, the Lord your God is with you. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save. The Lord your God is with you, he is mighty to save.
And now it's time for Argus's bad joke of the day. Good job, Argus. Terrible as always. Keep it up. And who is ready for the Sunday Showdown? Well, in today's game, you are going to be running around your living room or whatever room you're in, playing a little game that we're going to call Four Corners. And the way it works is this. Choose 4 corners in your house. You can go ahead and talk about it now and number them 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you're in a room that has more than 4 corners, is that possible? Just decide kind of where the 4 sections are. So maybe like back here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Decide ahead of time so everyone knows what corner that they're going to be playing in. And then we're going to play this little video that has questions. And every answer has 4 possible answers. Every question has 4 answers. You decide which corner you think has the right answer. It might be corner number 1, 2, 3, or 4. Get in the right corner, lock in your answer when it's revealed. If you're in the right corner and you got the right answer, you get a point. If you're in the wrong corner, that's okay. You got another round. and see who is winning at the end of the time. Are you ready? It's time to play Four Corners, a very special Around the World edition. Here it is.
Four Corners Around the World. Question 1. Let's go! Question 2. Seconds. Question 3. You're almost out of time. Question 4. Question 5. I've seen grandmas faster than you. Question 6. Question 7. Question 8. Seconds. Question 9. Final question. You win! You're the Four Corners Around the World champion.
All right, I hope you enjoyed our Around the World Four Corners. And now it is time for our Missions Moment. You know, in today's Missions Moment, we're actually going to revisit some missionaries that we met on our very first Kids Church at Home. I don't know if you remember it. There's a family called the Howells. And the Howells have been living in this very small, remote island nation for many, many years. And what they've been doing is that they have been working to get Bibles in the language of the people who live in this very small village and this kind of remote place. And after all these years and years and years of work, this summer, they were finally able to deliver Bibles to people for the very first time. Could you imagine, for the whole history of the world, these people have never had the Bible in their own language. They've never had the Bible. They could never read it. They could have maybe a pastor read it and then translate it to them. But if they ever wanted to read the Bible, they would have to learn a different language. And now the people have their own Bible in their own language, so they can now read it and study it. And they can begin to know more and more about God. And they can memorize it. And so we have a little video. We're showing this at our worship service here at Shays Mountain Annie Kids Church today. And we wanted you to see it here today. So these are the Howells sharing with you about how they were able to deliver, after all these many years of work, Bibles into the hands of their people. And what a celebration they had. Check this out.
Nah, popoona doon sa lalang, daw sa lalang, duma ho mababaya. Daw sa lalang, iyan man sa mababaya. Kagian sa iya Biblia. Igbasa kyo po ono Hebreo Kapitulo 9. Sunod lugar ulat. Pangitaan ka sa dagyan 9. Daw sa 11 daw 12. Baso dominion si Kristo para mahimo ha pinakalabaw hatik papamuhat o mga maayra butang hanakauma. Kandin ha inikagi. Kanding ko magbabaya halalang. Kanding ko magbabaya ha in instruction din dinitaki Pablo besan sa ay tatagbasahan tao inagi taki Pablo kanding ko magbabaya. Tao iman doong ko lang umanga higoonan. Well, we finally got the New Testaments all given out. And believe me, it was very, very, very difficult. We had planned on having one big party and killing a lot of pigs and having a great celebration about God's Word arriving in the hands of the Talaandi and Higa'unan people. But that didn't eventuate as we got hit by COVID. And it ended up that we had face masks and alcohol and foot baths and thermal guns and you name it, we had it. And we had, instead of having one big meeting, I think we had 9, where we met in 9 different locations, and each time quite a few of the churches would come. Everybody tried to social distance as well as what they could, and I think they did a pretty good job, which meant that we had to have a lot of meetings because we couldn't fit as many people into the same area. But God is good, and it's His plan, and it's probably the first post-COVID release of a Bible, and we thank Him for all the help and all the grace that He has given to Debbie and I over the last 20 years, and our team that has helped us to do this translation. And He got it over the line, and it's in the people's hands, and it's beautiful and it's good. And you guys have had an opportunity to serve as well. Many of you have prayed and given and encouraged us and just had a part in this translation, so we want to say a big thank you to you guys too over in the Western countries like Australia and some people in the USA that have had a part in helping Deb and I to stay on the field here and to do the work that God has had for us. So we aren't finished yet. There's a few more kilometres to go, or a few more miles to go. As I continually tell all of the Talaandi and Higa'unan Bible teachers, I tell them, listen, we're just doing warm-up. We're just warming up. And we don't say that proudly, saying that there's going to be so much that we're going to do. But until the Lord comes back, we're just going to keep allowing Him to use us, and we just want Him to just do whatever He wants to do through our lives.
Amen.
Well, hope you enjoy getting to hear from the Howells. Hope you continue to help pray for them. We as a church support them as missionaries, so we make sure that they have money from our church given through families, maybe like yours, that help support missionaries to continue the work of the gospel. And what a cool thing it is to see them at the end of this big, long project, but also it's encouraging to know that they know their work is not done yet. And as long as we have air left in our lungs, we have life in our bodies, we have an opportunity to continue the gospel and further the message of the hope of the good news of Christ. Well, we want to go over our brand new memory verse. This is for the month of August, and let me read it to you. It sounds like this. You have multiplied, O Lord my God, your wondrous deeds and your thoughts toward us. None can compare with you. I will proclaim and tell of them, yet they are more than can be told. Psalm 45. You know, this verse talks about the wondrous works that God has done. And we see those wondrous works in the miracles of Christ. When Jesus performs these miracles, it's showing the wondrous works of God. You know, the question that we asked at the beginning of our lesson was why Jesus performed miracles. And let's look at the answer together. The answer is this. Why did Jesus perform miracles? Jesus performed miracles to glorify God, to show He is the Son of God, and to care for people. And so we saw today this wonderful miracle of Jesus calming the storm that brings glory to God. It also shows that he is the Son of God. It shows who he truly is. And also, he saved the life of the disciples that he was with, and so we also see his care for them as well. Well, we want to thank you for being with us this morning. We hope you were paying attention. And just to see if you were, here is the big review. And one last thing before we go, don't forget our drive-through adventure, August the 29th is coming up for all families, everyone in the entire church. We want you to become part of our big scavenger hunt happening all over the city. It's at 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, August the 29th. You can go on our church's website and find out more information about it. Also, don't forget to sign up for Adventure Crew and Kingdom Kids. We got exciting things happening. We don't want you to miss out on it. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you guys at Kids Church next Sunday.